All right, well, I really appreciate everyone coming, and I really wanted to have something where I could see all the devotees and get your prayers and your blessings and your good wishes. I really feel like this, I've shared that with some of you, it's kind of like I'm being pulled to Vrindavan. We made some endeavor, but it's like sometimes, we make decisions and we're really just a very small part of the whole outcome. So during the month of Kartik, we found out about this particular treatment in Hodai treatment, and we made the decision to do it. And one of the things I really thought a lot about is just how Vrindavan has a covering, or any holy place has a covering, or any path has a covering, or the holy name has a covering. And to be able to really penetrate the externals and like chant the real holy name or be in the real Vrindavan. Because we see that being in Vrindavan, just like it said, you can't buy a ticket to Vrindavan. So you may go there physically, but you may not really be able to access what the real Vrindavan. So for me, ostensibly I'm going for cancer treatment. It's still basically, according to the Western medicine, it's still basically the same as it's been for the last, it initially improved a little bit, and then it's kind of been stable. But the reason I've been on about 5 different protocols for cancer. But it's, in cancer, it's a word that freaks everybody out. Telling me I have cancer and they can't deal with it. But there's a whole spectrum of different ailments and diseases that are under the banner of cancer. This is a slow growing one, so it's harder to treat with alternative. And so I went 3 years ago. I went to Tijuana and did a treatment there for a year, and I've done a lot of treatments at home and a real strict diet, which is at my house. If you know about my wife, it's not too hard to do because she is very disciplined with her diet, and that's really helped her maintain her health. And one of the reasons she's not going is because, she's not well now. But, she just started doing celery juice, and it's really helping her. She has a condition which has to do with Epstein-Barr, which, according to this book she's reading by some medical intuitive, a lot of diseases come from that. But anyway, she wasn't able to eat or digest very well, and she started doing about 4 days ago just celery juice, and she feels so much better. And she always jokes with me that you're the assigned cancer patient, and I'm always the one, you got to take care of me. So it is kind of ironic. And you look at me, you think, somebody said, you look better than the last time I saw you. And so appearances can be deceiving, but I know when I first started the diet, I looked very emaciated. So people I got a lot more sympathy, I look at. But I still really felt fine. The only difference now is that my throat is inflamed, and I can tell I can't blow a conch shell because it's too painful. But it's no real, usually what I like to say is a lot of times the chemo is worse than the cancer. Because, you see people, what is the face of cancer? Chemo. Your hair falls out, you look like crap, you're sick. It's from the treatment. And it doesn't really get, like Western medicine deals with symptoms. It doesn't really deal with the root cause. So, at the very least, what I've been doing hasn't been bad for me. The diet is good, and I haven't had any sugar, and it hasn't gotten a lot worse. But I knew I needed to do something else, so that's why I was looking for something. And then I don't know how we found out about this particular treatment, but sometime during Kartik we did, and I've talked to about 10 people who have done this particular treatment that have all gotten better from cancer, from a number of different major diseases. It's not an easy treatment, but it's better than chemo. But it's intense. You got to drink a lot of water. You got to be very strict with your diet. You take. I know I talked to Madhavananda, and he got permission to take water early in the morning. So I'm going to try. I'm going to endeavor to get up 2 o'clock, take water, then take medicine at 5, and then you take more medicine at 4 o'clock. And there's it's over a 6-month period, and there's about 9 different types of medicine that you take, and every month you go to this doctor, and he feels your pulse, and he's able to see if you've even cheated a little bit just by feeling your pulse. And if you know Arjun, who was here maybe about a month ago from Argentina, and he's an Ayurvedic doctor, and a lot of Ayurvedic doctors in the West, they don't really know how to do the pulse so much, because it's this man, his last name is Singh Vaidya. I don't know his whole name, but he studied for 2 years just to learn the pulse, because it's in anything. Just like you can train to be a therapist and not be a therapist, so you can in anything, whether a doctor or a counselor. My wife, she knew at 13 she wanted to be a therapist, so that's pretty unusual. So some people are natural. I mean, I used to cook for years. We were talking about sweet rice with Purva, and I'd have somebody stir the sweet rice, and they were blissfully letting it burn, but they were stirring it. I'm like, whoa! Because you got to feel through the spoon. You know, it's really an art. Everything is an art, and that's when you, just like with the dance. I'm sure there's people that know how to do the dance that they're not good teachers, or in anything. So, anyway, that's just a side point. But when I first got cancer, well, of course, it had probably been years in the making. And you don't just wake up with it. It's a process. But I just was aware of the swollen lymph node, and when I first went to the doctor, he's giving out antibiotics all day. So he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll write you a prescription." And I said, "Well, I'd like another opinion." He said, "No harm." So that was my journey, my introduction into cancer, and then doing all the research. When I meet someone who's been recently diagnosed with any disease, but with cancer, say, do your homework. Don't just listen to I would say the oncologists that I've met who have been treating me or interpreting the PET scans have all been sincere people. I have no doubt about that, but the system is really broke. And one of the important things for all of us, I think, we need some kind of alternative health care. Because, it's some of the diagnostics in allopathic medicine are fine, but I mean, even I've had like 6 PET scans, and you take radioactive Kool-Aid, it's not the best for your system. So but there are a lot of there's a lot of programs. I started with The Truth About Cancer. There's also Chris Wark, who has a whole treatment for cancer. There's a lot of information out there. And at least at first, it was bewildering because we found out that there was just so many choices. So it was like, and then my wife was freaking out because she said, well, what if we choose the wrong treatment and you die? So she had to just kind of settle that and just kind of surrender, because when we watched The Truth About Cancer, so many people were guided to do the particular treatments that they did. So we think, well, we'll be guided too, won't we? So, we made a decision, and she was able to be peaceful, but she had to have, one of the outcomes could be that I could leave my body. And she had to be okay with that so that we could, proceed, because otherwise you're just going to be freaked out and you're going to be worried and you just have faith and you just go ahead and see how it works. And so that's kind of what I did. I did the first treatment for a year, second one for about 9 months. No, actually the second one, I think I did it for 6 months. That's the cottage cheese and It's called the, it's right there. I can't think of the name of it, but it's cottage cheese and flaxseed oil mixed up. It's a whole science behind it, actually. And I did that, and I did, like I said, I've done about 4 of them. And then about 4 months ago, I could see that it was getting worse and that I needed to, it's really important to have some kind of a healthcare person kind of be able to evaluate the status of your disease, whatever it is. And hopefully person is familiar with alternative. I mean, what I'd like to see, you have complementary, you have traditional and complementary, and they're not at odds with each other. Because if you really study it, they, like the last oncologist I saw, and a number of them, they just kind of said, well, it's probably not bad for you, but the diet and all those treatments you've done are not curative. They just don't have faith, and they don't have any information about the power of diet and how that is an important factor in your healing. So anyway, we've been through all these different treatments and worked them religiously as long as I could. And this came about, and everything's just kind of fallen into place. Getting the visa and ticket, and the devotees there are very helpful for getting an apartment there in Vrindavan. And so I'm really pleased with how everything's gone. And one of the reasons I really wanted to have all of you come together, all of us together, is just to get your prayers and your blessings that I can be successful in my endeavor, and some kind of healing. I like to say healing may not be cure, but what is the real disease is material consciousness. So if I can get free from that, even if I left my body, it would be worthwhile. But I'm not going there with that attitude. But I talk about it a lot just because for me, I've seen how facing death as a real possibility is really empowering to live. If you just think, if you had another day or a week or a month, and what would you say to people that you love? And that's part, you would, because we tend to get caught up in life, and we're all working and running around, but just to be able to have real appreciation and gratitude, and to be there for each other. And one of my laments is that I think all the devotees here that I know, I have such affection for you, and we only get to see each other a couple times, and I don't get to really talk, a few sound bites. I thought one time we were at a Gita Nagari Ratha Yatra, and I thought what we should do, we should have a table. We should have a printout of all the things we've been doing. And you can just give it and say, for more information, please make an appointment. Because, you give the same little rap to people. And there's so many people that we know if we've been a devotee a long time. But honestly, to be able to spend time with any of you would be really wonderful. Just to see how you are, really. And that's when I look at you, I just think, oh, these wonderful faces, wonderful devotees that I know to different degrees, and to really be there for each other. And Subal called me when I was driving here because he didn't know if he was going to come, and I was just saying how wonderful it's been to see the families here, your family, and Madan and Gopal, and all. She didn't come, but Krishna Chaitanya and his wife, and just seeing all the families getting established and developed, and very inspiring. Materially and spiritually. And this particular visit that we had with Swami was really powerful, and it was just the best ever. It was just wonderful. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm going to try to write, at least in a journal, but I'd like to be able to write blogs and maybe use this technology to do some kind of video blogs or something. Because Madhavananda, who's done the treatment, he's still doing the second phase. He said, He said it twice. You won't be doing anything else. Nothing else. So he was really trying to like emphasize that it's intense, and you got to be fixed and focused and determined to do it, because a lot of people have given up because it's hard. So maybe they weren't sick enough. I don't know. But I think anything that's worthy of accomplishment, it takes a lot of determination. You read all the success books. You know, the people, how they persevere is amazing. And but the real reason I feel I'm going is to be in the Holy Dham, and what I'm praying for and asking you to pray for me is that I can really go deeply into the holy name and just living in the holy place and getting beyond the externals. You know, if you've been to Vrindavan or India, you know, there's a lot of distractions where you go, oh my God. But that's the apparent Vrindavan, and to be able to actually open my heart. And if I'm able to be healed, that I can come back and I can maintain that, because that's what I found. The first maybe 6 or 9 months of having cancer and really talking, the first lecture I was giving was facing death to live life more fully today. And then I kind of have softened it as when bad is good, because that's like universal. We want to see how some reverse or difficulty, there's always a positive in it. But it's really an attitude, and I learned it from my wife because she's had a lot of health challenges, and she also hears a lot of people's problems. And she's experienced, and I've experienced, that the power of focus in what you expect, what you look for in life. And I really feel like, you know, I wrote an article, Cancer is Krishna's Loving Embrace. People are like, what? Because when I wrote a blog about that, and someone thought, well, he's just in denial. He doesn't know how serious it is, you know. And I said, well, should I be depressed? Can I have a positive attitude about it? And I guess because of the advertising for what cancer is, people can't quite wrap their head around it. But I again say that a lot of times the modern treatment's worse than the disease. So I'm really not I'm in a little, you know, it's like having a sore throat all the time. So it's not terrible, but it's enough to get me to go to Vrindavan with some higher arrangement here. So that's just the external reason is for health. But, you know, the older you get, then the more chance there is that you're going to leave your body sooner. So how to make the best of it, of my life, and have that focus and presence. Because in my personal growth work, what I've had to do is learn to be emotionally present. Because when growing up, I had to withdraw. And that's how I survived. And then as a devotee, well, he's renounced, he's humble. But it wasn't real. It wasn't, my understanding of humility is in the face of realization of the greatness of Krishna, you feel very insignificant, but you're not depressed. You're not like not wanting to do any service because you're so fallen. But you realize your smallness, but you feel empowered to give. And that's really what I'm praying for, that I can have that, you know, Buddhists talk a lot about mindfulness, but it's also part of any spiritual path to be present in the heart, especially in bhakti. We want to give our heart. We want to give everything otherwise we can't really chant. And if we have a lot of unresolved issues, we can't be present for the holy name. So that's my hope and my prayer. I don't really have expectations. That's kind of my nature. I don't kind of like fantasize about how things are going to be. I kind of just accept what's going to happen. But I have a kind of a universal attitude that whatever, it's always going to work out somehow. And that's very powerful. It's not a specific outcome that I think, but I think I'm going to do this, and it's going to work out. It's going to be good. And just that helps you to notice things that are good. This is just a small example. I was traveling with a Swami at the time. This was years ago before I was married, and we were traveling, and there was a abandoned gas station, and there was a water faucet, a spigot, and he said, "Can you get some water there?" And I said, "Well, it doesn't work. It's gas station's not in business." He said, "Go try it." So I tried it, and it worked. So, in other words, I put a vision on that there's no water there, but there was. So that's a small example of if we have an attitude of negativity, we're not going to see mercy even when it comes and hits us on the head. So it's going to be harder for some people, if you're familiar with the Enneagram, it's going to be harder for some people to be more positively oriented. But we can all be more positive, and I'm a firm believer in the power of prayer. And I feel like I've been praying for so long with all the intensity that I can for spiritual progress. And I saw cancer as actually an answer to prayer. And now being able to go to Vrindavan is just kind of like further answer to prayer. And then with all of your help, just if you got a prayer list or whatever, put me on it. I'm not shy about asking for that. And I think I'm very ordinary, and but I have faith in the devotees' intention and well-wishing and the power of prayer, and that I feel like this is a big journey for me, but it's all been so like wonderfully orchestrated, and we've got Mitra and Mahara staying with us to keep Archana company, and it all just kind of fell into place easily.